Hey everyone, hope you're well and welcome to The Loft. It's Tuesday, which means it's a good time to go over my portfolio, see what's happened over the last week. As normal, we're going to be looking at the value change, the return change. We're also going to be looking at a little bit of diversity and also my personal favourite and best part of the week, which is the dividends that have come in. So without further ado, let's jump in and see what the general health of my portfolio looks like over the course of the week. So for anyone that does watch these videos regularly, first off, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And second of all, you will know that we will be looking at the change in the value and the return over the last week. So if we jump in, we can see that last week my portfolio sat at a total value of £2,823 and has grown over the week to a new value of £2,880, which is partially because I've added some money into the account. So if we look at the actual return and the percentage return of the account, we can also see what differences are there. Looking at that, we can see that I have had some growth there as well, moving from 13.62% up to a new return value of 13.89%. So in total, around 0.27% overall. If we compare that to the Vanguard ETF VOO, we can see that the ETF has actually outstripped me on this occasion as its return has increased by over 1% over the last week. But there are some major differences between my portfolio and the Vanguard ETF, obviously, besides the amount of stocks that are contained within it. And one of these main ones is the actual dividends. So if we look at the last dividend that the VOO paid out, if I had all of the value that I currently have in my portfolio in that particular ETF, I would have got around £9 in average dividends, whereas for my portfolio, I, for the same period, returned around £15 in dividend value back to myself. So I am trading a little bit of growth in exchange for a little bit more dividends, which is understandable for me because the idea of this portfolio is to gain dividends to be able to use for future wealth if needed, but also to be able to use them to reinvest into the portfolio to gain more growth and a bit of a snowball effect in the future. So it's nice to compare it just to see how they're doing against each other. What I would really like is for my portfolio to outperform the ETF in the sense of the amount of growth that I'm getting from it and also the amount of dividends I'm getting. But obviously that's slightly harder than expected. And let's have a look at now the purchases that I made over the last week with the extra funds that I added. Last week, I did add around £70-ish to the account, which is what I had spare at the time. And with that, I used some of it to make just one purchase last week. And that one purchase was for 2 shares of Pembina Pipeline on the 3rd of May, which cost me a total of £44.79 and brings my total Pembina Pipeline position to 4 shares, which increases my estimated dividends per month from around 20p per month up to 40p per month. And I'm hoping that that will potentially grow and increase in time, and I will hopefully be buying more shares in the future. For anyone that isn't aware of Pembina Pipeline and what they do, essentially they own pipelines, believe it or not. And what they do is they own the pipelines that transfer oil, gas, things like that through over 5,000 miles worth of pipelines throughout Canada and I believe some areas in North Dakota as well. They do also own and produce some of these gases and oils themselves in certain refineries and factories that essentially distribute it through the pipelines. But it is a nice thing for them to be able to do in the sense of they own the pipelines even if it's other suppliers putting their products through it. So they get a constant revenue from that. And they are currently growing their gross revenue, their gross profit, and also their free cash flow, which is personally what I like to see, because that means that at the end of the day, they're getting more money that they can then give back to me as a shareholder. So now that I've covered that, let's move over to the actual dividends that I managed to get, which is one of my favourite parts of the week. So last week we did have a few different payments coming in, and it was quite a nice thing to see coming in. The first one came in on the 3rd from the tobacco company Altria, who sent across £1.06 for the 2 shares that I hold. Then the following day on the 4th, we had a total of 6p from JP Morgan, who sent across 6p for me holding 0.1 of a share. And then moving on, we had one of the busiest days, which was the 5th, and we had 4 payments coming in on this day. The first one is from one of my favourite companies in general, let alone one of my favourite companies to invest in. These do hold one of the top 10 positions of my overall stocks, and this one is Games Workshop. They sent me over a lovely 54p for the 1.2 shares that I hold, and followed by that we then had CVS Health, who sent 37p, again for holding 1.2 of a share. Then AT&T also wanted to join in the party. They sent across 30p for the one share that I hold, and I have increased my position since that. I'm now holding 4 shares, I believe, of AT&T. So I'm hoping to see a lot bigger of a dividend from them next quarter when they pay their dividend out again. And rounding off that day, we then had Verizon, who sent across 4 whole pennies for my 0.1 of a share that I hold with the company. Then for the final payment of the week, the following day, we had Domino's Pizza, and they sent across a total 18p for the 2 shares that I hold, which brings my total weekly dividends to a value of £2.56, which I'm overly happy about. It's a quarter of the way towards my monthly target, which is around £10. So I am currently on target, as there's hopefully 4 weeks in a month, give or take, and we're a quarter of the way there. So I'm hoping that we will hit the £10 target again at the end of this month. Jumping into where my money is mainly laid, so the top sectors and where my money currently is, just before we go into my best performing stocks, we can see that most of my money is currently sat in consumer staples, which is taking up 18.6% of my portfolio, followed closely by real estate, taking up 16.3% of my portfolio. And then if we jump into the top stocks in the sense of percentage return on my money invested, we can see that it is currently ITV with over 100% return. Though if we flip it and we look at the most amount of money and monetary value that I've gained from any particular investment, we can see that it is once again Main Street Capital, who have returned to me around £30. And because someone did mention this and asked the question in one of my previous comments, I just want to highlight that in regards to exchange rate losses, my portfolio is currently down around £110. So what that means is if the dollar had stayed stable and not devalued against the pound, I would be £110 better off. But at the same point, the companies that I've been buying, I would have bought percentagely less of them, and I wouldn't necessarily have seen as much growth. So it is swings and roundabouts. But what I'm hoping here is that this is a bit of an opportunity. And by buying in at this lower exchange rate, if it does return to its average, I'm going to essentially gain a bit of money from that going back up. So I'm not particularly bothered about that as a whole. Overall, I'm still up in the market and I'm doing well from my point of view. I do want to quickly highlight that this video is part of my May giveaway. And currently, I believe only one person has entered the giveaway. So thank you very much. If you remain the only person that has entered the giveaway, you are pretty much guaranteed a £20 voucher converted into whatever your currency is. And if you're watching this and you haven't entered the giveaway, I would suggest it. I'm going to be sending out an Amazon voucher, so a £20 one, a £10 one, and a £10 one to the top 3 people that come out of the hat at the end of the month. And if there is currently only one person that has entered, you enter now and no one else enters, you are guaranteed either a £10 or a £20 voucher. Obviously that may change, people may enter more in the future, but I just want to highlight it because I want to give everyone the most amount of opportunity to actually get some free money, because it's me thanking you for taking the time to watch these videos. And if you kind of want to know what the giveaway is, how to enter, I have added links down in the description and basic information around how to do that. Or you can check out this video here, which explains it hopefully nicely, and you can then go from there. But until next time, remember to invest, save, and subscribe.